Okay, so let's go ahead and go through an example of a headings question. A brief review on the strategy for a headings question. We're going to quickly read through the possible answer choices, underlining any keywords that stand out. Then we will go to the shortest paragraph first and read either the first and last sentence or the first and second. If you're a fast reader, breeze through all three of those. Then go to the heading and choose the one that captures the same meaning you basically just found in the topic sentence. Remember, it's all about being able to find the right meaning, the right meaning, the right meaning. Okay? Remember, we're going to go to the shortest paragraphs first, and then we will go to the bigger paragraphs, because the shorter paragraphs are probably going to be a little bit easier to manage than one that has many, many, many sentences. Also keep in mind that we will have done the headings question after we have already done the other questions in the set. So if the headings question has a matching and a yes, no, not given question, then we would go ahead and do those questions first and then move and do the headings question, because that's going to make it much, much easier to manage, because we would have seen the whole thing. All right, so if you want to do this one with us, this one is from the Cambridge official IELTS 8 practice test, test 2, reading passage number 2. If you want to do it along with us. If you want to, what you can do is you can stop the tape now and you can go and do it yourself. And then you can come back and check your answers as we give the explanations for those answers. So if you want to do it that way, you can. That's a good way for you to practice. You can stop the tape, try and do it yourself, and then come back and listen to the explanation with us so you can know exactly how to do this question. All right, so here are our headings here. All right, and like I said, first we may just read through them very quickly. Tackling the issue using a different approach, a significant improvement on last time, how robots can save human lives, examples of robots at work, not what it seemed to be, why timescales are impossible to predict, the reason why robots rarely move, following the pattern of an earlier development, and the ethical issues. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with there in terms of our headings. It's a good thing just to read through them very quickly, familiarize yourself with them very quickly. Let's take a look at our paragraphs. We have A, B, C, D, E, F. So here, when we look at our paragraphs here, it looks like A, B, C, and D are almost around the same size. B is a little bit bigger, but E and F are the bigger ones. So actually, with this one, we can just go really in order. So let's start with our first paragraph. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the first sentence and the last sentence on these. Like I said, you can look at the first and second, or the first and last, or all three, depending on your reading speed. That's what you can actually do. But like I said, the most important sentence is the first sentence or the topic sentence. If you're able to really understand the topic sentence, you can always get the right answer, because you just need to find an answer choice that matches meaning, right? So let's look at choice A. It says, at first sight, it looked like a typical suburban road accident. So what does that sentence mean, right? It says, at first sight, it looked like a typical suburban road accident. So that means, this sentence means, when we first look at it, right, at first sight, when we first look at it, it looks like a typical suburban road accident. Last sentence, no one got out of the cars for the simple reason that they had no humans inside of them. The Tahoe and Land Rover were being controlled by computers competing in the November's DARPA competition, or competition challenge, right? So our first sentence tells us, when we first look at it, it looks like a typical suburban road accident. At first sight, it looks like, so when we first look at it. And then our last sentence tells us no one got out of their cars because they were driven by computers, right? So we have to find something that matches that. All right, tackling the issue with a different approach. Right now, did they mention anything in that first sentence about a different approach, or did you get the idea from that first sentence that we're talking about a different approach? From the first sentence, You get the meaning that when we first look at something, it's not the way it seems. That's what we're looking for, right? That's what we're looking for. A significant improvement on last time. No. How robots can save human lives. No. Examples of robots at work. Again, we're just going off our topic sentence. If we know our topic sentences well, we can always find the right answer. Not what it seemed to be. There's our answer. Number 5, not what it seemed to be. That's our answer right there. Okay? Because what did I tell you? Our first sentence says, at first sight, it looks like your typical suburban accident. Last sentence says there were no humans that got out because they were driven by computers. So that's why it wasn't your typical suburban accident. At first sight, it looked like it was. So we're looking for a heading that has the same meaning, not what it seemed to be. At first sight, it looked like this, but actually it wasn't that. You got it? Okay. All right. We're picking meaning. Let's look at the second one. The idea that machines could perform to such standards is startling. Driving is a complex task that takes humans a long time to perfect. Our last sentence says, yet only 3 years earlier, at DARPA's previous driverless car race, every robot competitor directed to navigate across the stretch of the open desert either crashed or seized up before getting near the finish line. So the first sentence tells us that the idea that machines could perform to such standards is startling, meaning it's surprising the machines could perform to this standard. Driving is complex and takes humans a long time to perfect. Our last sentence talks about 3 years earlier, there were the cars that all got into accidents. All right. Now, also, let me point something out to you. If you notice something, this last sentence starts with the word yet. Right? It starts with the word yet. And so actually it says yet only 3 years earlier. So really what you really should do here, right? You read your first sentence, and then if you go to your last sentence, when this sentence starts off yet only 3 years earlier, you should go back and look at the sentence before that. Okay? Go back and look at the sentence before that. The previous sentence says, even more striking was the fact that the collision between the robot Land Rover built by researchers, blah, 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 fitted out by Cornell University, was the only scrape in the entire competition. So this year there was only one accident. The previous year there were all accidents. Okay? So that's what we're looking for. Performing to really high standards. Tackling the issue using a different approach. No. There we go. Our answer is number 2, a significant improvement on last time. Our first sentence, our topic sentence tells us that it's surprising that they can perform at such a high standard. And then in our last sentence, it tells us this year there was one accident. The previous years, all the cars had accidents. So there was a significant improvement on last time. You see how they're using synonym language with the answer choices, right? They're using synonym language. They're not going to say the exact same words. Let's move on to C. It says, it is remarkable. It is a remarkable transition. There's clear implications for the car of the future. Okay, so this topic sentence, we can see we're talking about, it has implications for the car of the future. Right? And our last sentence says, we may be on the verge of a new era where the PC will get up off the desktop and allow us to see, hear, touch, and manipulate objects in places where we are not physically present. All right, so it seems like here they're talking about the car of the future, and in the last sentence they're making a comparison to a PC computer. Okay, let's see if we can find something that matches that. All right, the tackling the issue using a different approach. There's no different approach here. Number 2 is already gone. There's nothing about human lives. There's nothing about robots at work. Number 5 is gone. There's nothing about time scales. There's nothing about robots moving, following the pattern of an earlier development. I think that's our answer. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's our answer. Yeah, because our first sentence says it's remarkable transition that that there's clear implications for the car of the future, right? And then our last sentence, we look at the bottom, it's talking about that, robots will become a part of our everyday lives, and we may be on the verge of a PC getting up and walking around. Yeah, that's our answer. Following the pattern of an earlier development. Okay. Let's look at choice D. What is the potential for robots and computers in the near future? So this paragraph is going to talk about potential, right? What is the potential in the near future? The fact is we still have a way to go before real robots catch up with their science fiction counterparts. The last sentence tells us that this has, until recently, reduced robots to fairly static and cumbersome roles. Right? So our first sentence talks about the potential for robots in the future. It says we still have a long way to go before real robots catch up. And then the last sentence tells us that robots are fairly static and cumbersome. Right? So this question is talking about their potential in the future. It tells us they have a long way to go. And our last sentence tells us that they're fairly static. All right, tackling the issue using a different approach, no. How robots can save humans, no. Robots at work, no. Time scales, no. Our answer's right there. The reason why robots rarely move. Our first 2 sentences at the top tell us that robots have a long way to go. And then our last sentence tells us that robots are fairly static. Fairly static is synonym for robots rarely move, right? So the first sentence is talking about robots have a long way to go. And then our last sentence gives us information that we're talking about the robots are very static, meaning static again, meaning they don't move around at all. Okay? They don't move around at all. So you can see with the headings question, that it's all about understanding synonym language. And you can see that I'm using the strategy that I told you. I look at my first 2 sentences and my last sentence, or I'll just look at the first and last sentence. But that first sentence is so important. It is so important to do that. You have to match meaning. You must match meaning. What is the paragraph about? What is the paragraph talking about? You don't have time to read the whole paragraph, right? There's no time. You have to finish an entire reading passage in 20 minutes, right? You have to finish an entire reading passage in 20 minutes. There's no time to go and read the whole thing. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary. All right. E says, for a long time, researchers tried to get around the problem by attempting to recreate the visual processing that goes out of the human cortex. However, that challenge has proved to be singularly exacting and complex. So scientists have turned to simpler alternatives, right? That's where our top sentences tell us. It tells us they're talking about trying to recreate the human cortex or the human eye, and it tells us that they have turned around to something simpler. Let's see if we can find a match. I think we all know this one, right? Yeah, let's look at how robots can save lives. Now, tackling the issue using a different approach, right? Because they told us they're trying to develop the human eye, and it told us they're looking for an alternative method. Alternative method is synonym for a different approach. If you pick synonyms, if you understand synonyms, you can always get the right answer. That's the key, everybody. Understanding synonyms. If you understand synonyms, you will get the right answer every single time. Okay? All right, so we are going to wrap it up right here. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson on seeing how you do a headings question. It's all about looking at your topic sentence and really understanding your topic sentence. And then also taking a look at the second and the last sentence, or the first and the last sentence. Understand the meaning. What is this paragraph talking about? What is the main idea of this paragraph? To get that, you need your first and your last. That's really all you need, everybody. Okay? So good luck, and I will talk to you soon.